Once every
That's what
7
ghost
years.
vampires. They're actually secretly sucking out your blood at night while you sleep. That's what a succubus is.
There you go. Suck your bus.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD necessary.
We're the podcast that recaps all episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot.
Make yourself a grasshopper and enjoy the ride.
Hello there, Ryan.
Hey, Rob.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great because we just watched the Jerusalem Duality.
Yeah, we did.
For any new listeners out there, we are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder to everyone, this is Ryan's first time watching the Big Bang Theory, and I've seen it several times. We also keep tallies on how similar Ryan is to Sheldon. Ryan, do you want to give us an updated count?
Yeah, right now we are at 13 points, me being more like Sheldon, and 12 points of me being like somebody else, mostly Penny, but someone else from the show. So it's like almost neck and neck, but right now I am slightly more like Sheldon. All the people who have met me and said, you're kind of like Sheldon, are so far they're correct. But we still have many more episodes to go.
All right, before we get into housekeeping, I want to say happy October. I know we're getting, by the time our listeners get to this, it's a little late, but it's October. And did you know today is the last day of Oktoberfest?
No, I didn't. I know that Oktoberfest is traditionally in September, right? So it makes sense that first few days of October, and then it ends.
But Oktoberfest is over, but that's why I got my Stein.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I actually never drink out of this. I'll take a picture and post it on our Instagram, but I've never actually drank out of this. It was my mom's Stein, so I wanted to pop the cherry with you.
Oh, I like that.
I don't know.
I have a collection of Steins, but I don't drink out of them. I think I should more often. I do enjoy drinking out of a Stein. I just don't do it. What are you drinking?
Yeah. I have, it's Erie Brewing Company, Mad Anthony's American Pale Ale.
Oh.
All right, a little ASMR right here.
Yeah. Glug glug that.
Yeah, I'm back at drinking again, obviously.
Woohoo! That's the spirit.
It was short-lived.
I'm going with a Shiner Bock.
Nice. Well, cheers. Happy
Cheers.
Oktoberfest. Happy Oktoberfest to everyone out there. A week late, but...
Oh, I love October.
Oh, that's good.
It's good. It's good. It's so good.
So good as soon as it touches your lips. All right. Onward to housekeeping.
All right.
I needed my beer before we got started on that. So we have an Instagram account. Feel free to follow us. We are at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review and we'll give you a shout out. And then another shout out to John Kim Designs for our awesome logo.
Yes, thank you for the logo. And we're still monitoring emails and everything. So if I see anything, I'll be sure to read it. And we look forward to hearing from everyone.
Yeah, we actually did just get an email. I think I shot you a message about this a few days ago where I finally checked our email and we got an email.
Oh, yeah.
It was from Squared Up, who gave us an email a little while ago. It got through to us, so thank you again for your email. He commented on our conversation about Kmart in episode 4, where I think he caught my Washingtonian accent, where I said sense instead of since.
You know, I saw that email and saw it was made out to you, so I just ignored it. I'm like, that's not important.
If it's my name on it, nothing's important.
No, you got to it first, and then you showed me. I'm like, oh, yeah. So we did get that one, and since
yeah, sense versus sin. That's a really good catch. I didn't even notice. Do I say that a lot? Sense instead of since?
You know, I haven't been paying attention.
Like every time I sing Kelly Clarkson, Since You've Been Gone.
Since you've been gone.
Not Since You've Been Gone. But yeah, we Washingtonians also say beg instead of bag.
You know,
Have you ever heard that conversation before? Like people in Washington talk about the time. It's mostly in like central Washington or eastern Washington. A lot of people say beg instead of bag. Like I have a shopping bag.
I don't think I've heard that.
Listen to it.
I'm going to pay attention now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there.
You know, I've grown up all over, so I say just picked up weird things like apparently I say button wrong, or not wrong, but I like enunciate the T's a little too much, and I don't hear it, but multiple people have pointed out. They're like, "You say button weird." I'm like, "Button, oh, okay."
Button. You really like to say the butt part.
Butt on.
Butts on.
On. There we go.
Your shirt has a nice button. Singular.
On.
Only one of them is nice. All right, well, thanks for the email, and let me know if I say anything else weird.
Of course.
And also, last time we talked about, we're getting towards the end of Season 1, so at the end of Season 1, Ryan and I talked about doing a recap episode where we go through the superlatives of Season 1, like favorite character, favorite side character, favorite IQ point, and things like that. So if anyone's interested or keeping track, feel free to send us your favorite IQ points, favorite half IQ points, favorite character, favorite moment of the season. Just send us something.
Favorite Sheldon point, favorite not Sheldon point.
Yeah. Also, we're in October, as we said. We're nearing Halloween, so if you haven't yet, check out episode 6. We already recapped the Middle Earth Paradigm, where we discussed the origins of Halloween.
Oh yeah. And check out
shout out.
Your picture online of you as the Kool-Aid Man, right?
That's right. It's posted. You want to see me dressed up as the Kool-Aid Man?
It's there. Out there. It's awesome.
All right. Housekeeping over. Did I miss anything, Ryan?
That's all I can think of.
All right. So shall we get started?
Yeah. So we're on episode 12, the Jerusalem Duality. And, sometime I'm terrified that I'm going to be like, we're on episode 13, and then I'm going to, like, shout out a title, and you're going to be like, Ryan, that's not the episode we watched.
You did research on the wrong one.
No, that wasn't even Big Bang Theory.
That's 2.5 Men.
Oh, no.
I actually worry about that a lot, too, so I have to, whenever I'm writing notes or watching the next episode, I really have to check my old notes. It's like, I am on this episode, right?
I figured 2.5 Men. I thought it was a different show, but I just figured maybe Sheldon was talking differently, or the gang aged a little bit. All right, so Jerusalem Duality aired on April 14th, 2008. The director is Mark Zendrowski. The writers Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and David Ghosh.
I was thinking Ghost.
Ghosh? Okay. Ghosh. Oh, I'll go with that. And we start off in the cafeteria at work, and Sheldon and Leonard are eating and discussing teleportation. And we immediately go into an IQ point for me.
All right.
Did you look into this at all?
I didn't, because I didn't even know where to begin, and I kind of like Sheldon's ideas of teleportation.
It's there's a lot to be said about it. It's an ongoing discussion, and it does get pretty dense, but the Sheldon's position that if you are transported by a teleporter, you are disintegrated and then put back together by molecules or what matter on the other location. So if you're going from a spaceship, you disintegrate, your atoms are just discombobulated, and down on the planet, different atoms are rearranged to make you up. So basically, you're reborn. And the question is it still you? Is this safe? Would it be dangerous? Or, how do you feel about it? But it comes from Derek Parfit's book, Reasons and Persons, he brings up the teletransportation paradox. And it is this notion, just like they were talking about on the show, that if you are transported, you will be disintegrated. Life as you know it ends, and then life as you know it begins again with matter elsewhere. And we get different things, kind of like the notion of what does it mean to be oneself. If you have a boat and the boat's falling apart and you repair it, and every year you repair it to the point where nothing on that boat is original, is it the same boat? And really this comes down to the part that I found really scary was the discussion that technically we are a composition of memories. We are walking around memory banks, and that every day we have cells regenerating, renewing. Every 7 years, I believe, something like that, every cell in our body is completely new than it was 7 years before. And so technically we are not the people we were when we were born. All we are is these collection of thoughts, which means technically if the thoughts are shut down and put together on the planet, technically it is still us. And although it may not be us now, technically who we are tomorrow, when we fall asleep at night and wake up in the morning, we are not who we were when we went to bed.
Is that really true? Every 7 years, all of our cells are replaced?
I've heard it's 7 years, and the website I was looking at was actually talking about different cells, but I'm going to look this up just so we have it.
I'm not questioning you.
No,
like, I'm kind of just shocked and blown away. It's like, oh my god. I'm just like staring at myself like, huh?
Who am I? According to howstuffworks.com, researchers found is that the average age of cells in the human body is 7 to 10 years. That doesn't mean the cells replace themselves every 7 to 10 years. It means that cell renewal happens at different rates. So within 7 to 10 years, everything has been replaced.
That's crazy. I had no idea that. I guess things do grow. Your skin kind of sheds. Your hair is like gets cut. It grows.
You regenerate. You get cut. You heal up. Everything's constantly living and dying.
Even your blood, though? Like, where does your blood go?
Apparently, it dies off, and I'm guessing you
your body
excrete it.
Oh.
Pee and poo. That's what the kidneys are for, right? As they die, impurities go out. Maybe you eat them. I don't know. Where does my blood go? Actually, vampires, Rob. This is where vampires come in. Once every 7 years.
Vampires. They're actually secretly sucking out your blood at night while you sleep. That's what a succubus is.
There you go. Suck your bus. Alright, so that was my IQ point, that this is a real conversation, and at the end of the day, technically, because of the way we identify, our thoughts make us up who we are. Now, the question is, if you get something weird where the transporter screws up and creates two different clones of you, technically both are you and both are not you. Things get really weird.
Or like in Spaceballs, where President Shroob had his head backwards.
Yes. Alright, so we're going along, and Dr. Hauser, the guy who had fired and rehired Sheldon, right, comes in with Dennis Kim, who is, he's like 15, and he's looking for a school for grad school, right? Yep. And they're talking, Sheldon is immediately, standing up against him, a little jealous of the people being oohing and awing on him. And he's like, well, I started grad school at 14. And Kim is like, well, I was tunneling out of North Korea, so I was behind a year.
Suddenly really quick. I did a little bit of research on who played Dennis Kim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, played by Austin Lee. And he only has 5 actor credits. He
really?
Actually did not. Yeah, it didn't say what he. Well, I only looked in IMDb, but it didn't tell us what he's currently doing. But only 5 things on his acting resume. And after Big Bang Theory, he went 7 years before his next project, which was called Theater People.
Wow.
And he mostly played small roles. He was in Two and a Half Men, Zoe
Of course he
101.
was.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and it got me wondering, it's like, why didn't he act? And maybe the creators, Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady, really did get him into Girls and Booze, which kind of distracted him. Maybe that's why he's not acting anymore.
Good for him.
Well played, Chuck Lorre.
Yes.
Well played.
You win this round. Yeah, so and I have to say I like this episode that we get somebody meeting Sheldon, and also some of the characters are showing some of their true colors, and I think it's funny that they're exposing not that they're bad people, but they're willing to do what it takes to get Sheldon off their back, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to come up, but yeah, Kim apparently was playing it, or not bluffing, but making it seem like, I don't know if I want to go here. You don't have a lot of great stuff. And he actually mentions an open science grid computer and a free electron laser.
Yep.
Did you look into those at all?
I did look into those two. But before we get into that, I actually have another IQ point.
Oh, nice.
Since he said that he escaped North Korea, it got me wondering how many people have actually successfully escaped North Korea. And I found this information on theconversation.com. Apparently, since 1953, 300,000 people have escaped North Korea. And about 30,000 of them have settled in South Korea. Makes sense, because it's the closest one.
Yeah.
But this is actually where the research got really interesting, because we all have heard how horrible conditions are in North Korea, and you kind of just hear about it, it's like, why aren't they all trying to escape?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? We have to put an end to this. But there have been 30 reports of people actually returning to North Korea. I kind of like 30 doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually is kind of a lot when they spend all this time trying to escape a place that they actually go back.
Mm-hmm.
And it just got me wondering. I was like, oh my God, well, why? And apparently many defectors have trouble adapting to Southern life and miss their families. And in South Korea, there are government programs to help them assimilate. But the refugees usually have low education and only have a background in farming or manual labor. So it's very difficult for them to find work. And there's also large amounts of suspicion on those with northern accents. They think that they might be spies. So if they stay in South Korea, they're going to have a very hard life, potentially harder than the dictatorship of North Korea. So most of the people try their luck elsewhere in the world, either the Europe or the US. So then it got me wondering, well, where do all the North Koreans go? If 300,000 of them have escaped since 1953 and only 30,000 of them stayed in South Korea, where'd they all go? So I looked up some census reports. So this is from migrationpolicy.org. Kazakhstan hosts the largest population of North Koreans at 65,000, followed by the United Kingdom and Russia with 11,000 each. And finally, the Philippines hosting 6,000.
I'm surprised Russia's in there. But it's a communist government, right? Yeah, so it's at least something they're used to. I could understand wanting to go back because you miss your family. If you leave your family behind, it can be tough.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there's so much discrimination in South Korea on North Koreans, because they just assume that they're spies.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I can't trust you. And then with their and like what they said, with their poor education, they can't get jobs, they can't get better educated, they can't get into schools or anything because no one trusts them.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what am I going to do? Just be a beggar here? I might as well just go back.
Yeah. I was also thinking that from what I hear, the country North Korea is ran kind of like a cult. too. So part of getting out of that, I could see missing it or feeling like you don't belong elsewhere because you've spent and devoted yourself so much to this organization, this government. It's borderline religion type stuff, right? That it could be difficult to move somewhere else and then be like, I don't know how to live my life because I'm so accustomed to what it was before, and the customs and traditions and life. Yeah. So I never thought about how hard that would be, but I can see it being very difficult.
But not Dennis Kim. He seems like he's going to like America.
More so every day.
Yeah. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. So we get the Open Science Grid computer, and from what I learned is this is basically like a network of computers that can be utilized by scientists anywhere, so that you have more computing power if it's hooked up to this network and working together, as opposed to just what you have on your property or your site. And it reminded me of, I think it was PlayStation 3 that you could do this with, where you could set it up and some organization, while you weren't using your PlayStation 3, would use the hardware and like use it to calculate space stuff. I don't know. And I did it once. I'm like, this is boring, and then turned it off.
Boring. I'm not killing enough things.
Yeah, I thought this was a video game, and I'm just helping humanity. I don't care.
Open Science Grid? This is the most boring game I've ever played.
So did I win? Or and then the free electron laser, I got basically from PubMed.com. It's basically electronic beam produced through a magnetic field. Basically, electrons get shot through and harnessed by magnetic waves. And that this can be used for sciences and research and studies. But they're trying to apply it to other things like medicine and see where it can go.
Yeah, I pretty much found like the exact same thing.
All right.
It wasn't. I did do a little deep dive to see if Caltech upgraded their science department, and apparently they now have an Open Science Grid computer.
I was going to say, those don't seem that far-fetched, so
it's just like a big network of knowledge. It's like
interconnected, the interwebs.
But they have it now, so
they got it. Kim taught them a lesson. Kim's like, you got to get this, and they're like, we'll do it, Kim.
Yep. The Caltech team just watched Big Bang Theory and was like, you know what? They're onto something. Hop on this.
That's what we're missing. So they got an Open Science Grid computer finally.
Yep, Caltech has an Open Science Grid computer.
Nice. But nothing to be said about the free electron laser.
Didn't look into that.
Oh, fair enough.
I was more interested in that. But before they leave, Gablehauser is trying to bribe Dennis by using 20% of the grant funds to smuggle out his grandfather.
Oh, yeah. He's kind of holding that over his head, right? Yeah. You want your grandfather.
You want to see your grandfather again, don't you, kid?
And Gablehauser is basically saying that they should hang out with Kim, show him around, and Kim says that Sheldon's research has hit a dead end, and I kind of think the animosity towards Kim has started before this, this definitely solidifies Sheldon's anger.
Just knowing that he might even have an intellectual equivalent frustrates him.
Yeah.
Just that alone, and now for that person to antagonize him, saying that his research is a dead end, Sheldon's not going to have that.
And I record the quote, landscape of false vacuums in string theory could be as large as 10th to the 500th power. And for the most part, that is over my head. But I did find out that basically false vacuums are, and I'd say this is partial IQ. I didn't really go too far into it. False vacuums are basically vacuums that are stable enough. But what happens is if there's another vacuum that is more stable, it can basically overcome the false vacuum and make it join it. It's kind of like the Borg, but with a vacuum, and say, okay, you're going to be part of me now. And landscape is the different kind. So basically, the notion that our understanding of vacuums, false vacuums, and the many ways that they appear in the universe is extremely small compared to what Sheldon was working with. So that's what we get through, is knowing that Sheldon has been a little short-sighted with this notion of vacuum theory.
Well, that kind of checks out with Sheldon's character overall. He's a very stubborn person. When he thinks that he's on the right track, he's just going to follow it.
And just keeps going, even if it's wrong. And then Dennis gets sidetracked with chocolate milk.
Well, one thing that I was going to say is, why did Gablehauser think to leave Dennis Kim's hands into Sheldon and Leonard? What was he thinking?
Because, I was thinking maybe they were like the youngest guys there.
And they're cool and hip?
They're cool and hip, yeah. Wasn't Gablehauser kind of doing stuff with Sheldon's mom? So he's like,
so he felt like he owed him.
Yeah.
I'm going to toss him this bone.
Toss his mom a bone. All right, so then we go into the intro, and they're in the hall, and Dennis Kim they mentioned that he speaks English for being in the U.S. for a year and a half, and Dennis mentions that they don't do so well with speaking the English.
No, they do not.
Right.
And I was gonna refer this IQ point over to you as the English guy. So
yep, I have something to say with this.
Yes. So Dennis was saying that Leonard speaks English very well, with the exception of his tendency to end sentences with prepositions.
Technically, Dennis is wrong here. It is not grammatically incorrect to end a sentence with preposition. It is seen as informal, a little bit slang, but not grammatically incorrect. And if your audience is going to be upset by it, then you should avoid it, but it's not wrong. And the notion is that a preposition is basically a word describing when, where, how something's going to happen, a condition. Like if, on, from are prepositions. And the notion is, if you end a sentence with one, it's kind of begging for more information. So a listener not paying full attention would be like, you ended it in the middle of a thought. So you could say something like, this is where I came from. And then the listener would say, from where? Which would take rearranging the whole sentence.
Even if they answered it in that way?
You would actually have to say...
we're in Poland. That's where I'm from.
That would be wrong, yeah. According to Dennis Kim and according to this preposition theory. But if you say, where did you come from? That's where I'm from. You would say, I am from Poland. Instead of saying...
That seems like more words than needed.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the more formal way.
The formal way is being specific and clear, and using, you want to be clear and concise, but ending with a preposition kind of leaves the reader having to do more, or the listener having to do more work. But we're so used to it that we can do it. It makes sense. Grammarly actually quotes and says it's not an error. They have a whole page about it. And Merriam-Webster says that it's probably from a poet named John Dryden in a critique he did in 1672. And he was basically making fun of somebody for using prepositions at the end of sentences. The thing is, people did it. Famous writers did it before that. It's just this one guy, John Dryden, really pointed it out as being a problem. And likely him and other people who support this thought process want English to be more like Latin. And in Latin, I guess the syntax does not allow you to end with a preposition at all. Like Latin, just you can't do it. But English you can, and English is not Latin. And so for the most part, if you want to end with a sentence with a preposition, go for it. It's just maybe a little informal.
Well, side note, you say Latin like button.
Latin, button, Latin. But yeah, I get students all the time are like, do you care if I end a sentence with a preposition? I'm like, man, whoever's been teaching you this had too much time on their hands. I just want you to spell your name right. Let's start with the basics.
That's what it's come down to.
All right, so that's my
IQ point. I never even thought of this at all. Like, I'm not an English guy, and I guess we can't expect Dennis Kim to know it since he's English is his second language, and he's a science guy.
Yeah.
So what does he know?
Nothing. He knows
Absolutely
about chocolate milk.
Yeah. He knows what's up then.
Yeah. And so they get into Sheldon's office and start talking about some of Sheldon's work, right? Getting into quantum loop corrections.
I do like how Sheldon was trying to get rid of them. Is this part of the tour? No. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Which is funny because it comes up where people are trying to get rid of Sheldon later in that episode. So now he's on the giving end, and later he'll be on the receiving end.
Yes, he will. Sounds like your doggy's trying to have some fun.
Yeah, I got her a new toy. It's a werewolf, and she's trying to show it to everybody. And all right. Yeah. So, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, Kim starts pointing out things that Sheldon's gone wrong with. It's saying, "You know where you went wrong?" He's like, "Of course I do, but I didn't go wrong," and like kind of bluffing back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Showing
their knowledge and everything,
intellectual prowess or whatever. So
yeah, he asks about the if he's considered the Lorentz invariant or field theory approach.
Yeah, I was kind of mixing this with the quantum loop corrections, but I went straight with the Lorentz invariant and the field theory. What'd you get for it?
Not that much, to be honest. I tried doing a lot of research on this, and this is like way too far over my head.
Yeah.
I know. So, audience, these are real things. So
they're real. They're out there.
Make this up, but I have no idea. So for the Lorentz invariance, the only thing I got was it's a quantity that does not change when changing reference frames. No idea what that means.
My understanding, I read a few sites that kind of dumbed it down, and it's probably oversimplifying it, but it's the notion that results don't change based on where the observer is. So even though there's multiple observers, they should get the same results. So if you're in space and you have a telescope and you're watching an experiment down on Earth, and there's somebody on Earth watching it, and then there's somebody on Mars watching it via video, everybody's going to get the same results.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Yeah. That just because somebody is up higher or turned around or colorblind or whatever it might be, they're going to observe the same thing. Which is kind of interesting. Then field theory is kind of where... Yeah, what'd you get for field theory? I want to hear you say first.
I got that it is a psychological theory which examines patterns of interaction between the individual and the total field or the environment. So it's kind of interesting that they're using a psychological tool to analyze scientific things. That they're kind of just like using the environment as a variable in the equation.
Yeah, I was taking it as definitely when I brought it up, the psychological studies. In fact, a lot of examples came up with children and child development, and that when a child is angry, you have to take into account everything going on in the child's life, right? Are they hungry? Are they sleepy? Have they been abused? Did they have a bad day? Are they, you know, whatever? Um, in this case, my thought process was that when you study something, loop quantum loop corrections, you have to look at the big picture and try to understand everything can impact one little thing, and that, yeah, the nature of what's going on, but also previous events, future events, all those things go into affecting how and what is observed as a result. That's the most I could come up with, that maybe Sheldon isn't considering all the possible influences on his project.
Again, makes sense for
Makes sense.
Sheldon's
So,
character.
yeah, so that's I may be way off in trying to get these things to fit together. They're making connections that are over my head and pay grade. So
Yeah. But you know what? We established that they're real, and that's the whole point of this podcast. The things that they're talking about are very real things.
although something is about to come up that they mentioned the Stephenson Award.
Yes. So I tried deep diving into this one too. Do you want to take it?
I kind of came up that's not real. That there's multiple Stephenson's awards, and it could be any of them, but probably not any of them. Nothing matched up.
I found so many of them, but I was like, wait a minute, but this has nothing to do with science. Or, hey, here's another one, but that's not even in their field of physics.
It's in urology. This is a community college award. Like, what?
Yeah, so the ones that I found that were the closest was, one of them was the urology one. Then another one, it was Stephenson with a PH in it. It's a principal prize of the Microbiology Society, but I can't see Sheldon caring about microbiology.
Yeah. So I don't think this was real. I think they made this award up.
Yeah. The closest one that I found was called the Stephenson Fund, which was for Greta Stephenson, because that one actually is based on math, chemistry, and physics.
Oh.
But it's not confirmed because they called it the award, and this is the Stephenson Fund.
And then
I don't think this is real.
I found a very interesting detail, and I need to go back and double check this. I saw pictures online, but express.co.uk was talking about people rewatching The Big Bang Theory during COVID and picking up details. And there is apparently a flaw with the Stephenson Award. That it says, did you see this at all, or did I?
No, I didn't.
It says, it's made out to Sheldon, but after his name, he says PhD. And in the episode, he said he got the award at 14 and a half, but he didn't get his PhD until like 15.
Oh.
Right. So if you're looking closely enough, you can make that out that it's a fake award and it's a fake PhD.
Maybe he really didn't get the award then. Maybe it was something that his parents gave to him as a way to shut him up.
Secondary prize. Everybody's a winner. Interesting. I think that might be one of the first things we found that was not real. I think most everything we find in here is real in some way, shape, or form. So I was surprised. So he's trying to get them to go. Sheldon's trying to get Leonard and Dennis to go, and Leonard goes, it's like an obnoxious mirror, right? Leonard's kind of finding humor in this setup, this connection between Sheldon and Dennis not liking each other.
It's very petty, but like when there's someone that always irritates you and like they don't see their own flaw, so when they can finally see it, then you kind of get a little bit of sick pleasure out of it.
Right. What is that word? There's a German word, and
Would you like an enema?
Yes, it is. A colon internal coil. I believe it's Schadenfreude. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it means to derive pleasure from somebody else's misfortune.
Misery loves company.
Schadenfreude. I love it. All right, so they get back to the apartment and they're eating, and Penny's not in this episode much, but she does a good job, and I think Raj actually wins the episode. He's my favorite character in it. But Penny is eating, is like, "Isn't this delicious?" And Raj again says nothing, and they point out still can't talk without being drunk, and he just nods, and she's like, "Oh, what's the quote?
You're so damaged.
You're so damaged." I love that. You're so damaged.
Well, Howie's damaged too. How about a hug for Howie?
And then she's like, "Okay, Raj, hug Howie." Plays it off nicely. You're so damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. So Sheldon's mad about the kid. That comes up. Where did my notes go? My handwriting's horrible. I took notes in the dark, and I can barely read.
Oh, well, Sheldon is just very upset about it. He's noticeably sighing. He's upset. He's talking about how, like, life's not fair. I didn't think anyone would be bigger or smarter than me. And they talk about how, well, you always knew that someone smarter and younger would come around at some point. But
yes.
And he says,
that's the quote I have.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, I thought that would have been hundreds of years later.
After is dead, and they would be a cyborg.
Yeah.
And there would be a little subnote saying cyborg.
Well, as he's like trying to like figure out the words to express his displeasure with everything, he forgets who Antonio Salieri is. So that's where Howard outshines him. So I did a little bit of research on this.
Go for it. I did not get this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sheldon is trying to think of like, I'm Mozart and he's, oh my God, who am I thinking of? And then Howard chimes in and says Antonio Salieri. It's like, oh, now Howard's smarter than me too. Well, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Antonio Salieri are two classical composers known to have a bitter rivalry. There are rumors that Salieri actually poisoned Mozart, but this was actually proven incorrect, according to Wikipedia. But yeah, it's not true.
Mozart poisoned himself.
Yeah. Well, that was depicted in the fictional tale Amadeus. So it was a play in 1979. It was also a movie in 1984. So that I've always seen the cover. I've always seen it on like the top, like most notable movies, but I've never seen it.
Doesn't it have like two eyes or something in the head?
Yeah, and the silhouette.
Yeah.
It's Amadeus, and that is actually about their rivalry, but it's a fictional tale.
You know, I was going to say that takes us back to the last episode with Planet of the Apes and the musical of Planet of the Apes on Simpsons, where they're singing Amadeus.
Amadeus.
Dr. Zayas.
I do like that song Amadeus by Falco.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Fucking great song. Oh my God. Don't even care. Guilty. It's not even a guilty pleasure because I'm not guilty about it at all.
Yeah, you're all guilty for not liking it.
I feel no guilt, no shame. Love me some Falco.
All right, so yeah, I like. He keeps talking about waiting to die, dying, and Penny's finally like, "Wait, are we waiting for him to die, or do we get to take him out back and shoot him?"
Yeah. And I like this scene too because we actually do get insight because up until this point we're constantly wondering is like, why do they hang out with Sheldon? Mm-hmm. Why is he even here? Why? And then they straight up ask Howard and he's like, well, we like Leonard.
Yes. Well, we like Leonard.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been in that situation before where I'm hanging out with someone that I really like and they always bring their asshole friend.
Yeah, and you learn to appreciate the friend, and I'm sure I'm probably that friend with some friends, and everybody gets to be that friend once in a while. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, I'm kind of sick of this person, right?
Yeah.
So it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, but Sheldon wore him down over time.
So later, Sheldon talks about collaborating with Leonard, and this is kind of the heart of the episode. He's going around, he's like, what can I do with somebody else to get my spirit back up and show just how great I am? And Leonard's like, we can't really do anything. And he explains that he's creating an experiment to study soft component um, of cosmic radiation at sea level. And this is, I couldn't do much. I just found out that soft radiation is electrons, positrons, gamma photons, and it's called soft radiation because it cannot pass through dense material. So it's what I'm thinking of as most radiation, of having like lead helps helps keep it out, right?
I don't know about that part, but
I was just thinking, like, when you put on like a lead vest at the dentist, like it stops like some of the X-rays and radiation.
Yeah.
Whereas 70% of cosmic radiation is hard radiation, hard component, and this is made up of muons, and this can basically penetrate materials up to like a 1 meter. So it can go through a lot. It does get stopped, but it's not like soft where it's like this piece of metal has stopped it completely. It takes quite a bit more.
Yeah, I did a little research on this too, and the only thing that I could think was like, man, Leonard is studying something awesome. Like, this sounds like really cool. Like, cosmic rays are constantly coming down at us from outer space.
Cosmic radiation would mean not necessarily just from the sun, but just from out in the cosmos, right?
Yeah.
Because it would be solar radiation if it was from the sun. But this is, like you said, we always have radiation coming into the sky, atmosphere, wherever it is we live. It's in the biosphere, Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On this planet.
And this planet, the blue thing. And Sheldon assures Leonard he needs help and starts asking questions, and Leonard's response is, go away. The catchphrase for the episode, go away.
Sheldon just questions everything that he's doing, and he's like, is this normally how you work? Just hunches and guesses?
Just hunches and guesses.
I'm kind of like Sheldon in that sense. It's like, you can't just go off. You can't just make guesses. And I mean, of course, every research starts with a guess or a hunch or something like that. Of course, that's how it starts, but that's not how you collect the data. You need hard evidence.
I didn't put a point, but I would say I'm more like Leonard on this, that it's kind of like I make the hypothesis and then I just go along with it until it fails me. And then people are like, so what did you expect? I'm like, I don't know. I guess I was wrong.
Back to the drawing board.
Back to the drawing board. Well, now you have radiation, cosmic radiation, Ryan. What do you think of that? I'm sorry.
Oh. I thought my button would protect it.
Yeah, my button. It was right next to my laton. So then he ends up at Howard's work, and I love this because we've talked a little bit about Howard only having a master's in engineering, right? And he's basically there putting the scientific information into use. And he talks about how he... Actually, I'm going to take a step back because Sheldon says something that made me laugh. He called the engineers the Oompa Loompas of science.
Yeah, I mentioned that in a previous episode. Just how Sheldon really treats people that are I guess, what he dubs the working class.
Yeah.
Anybody under the theoretical pretty much anything not a theoretical physicist is a working class Oompa Loompa.
He's the dreamer, and these are the workers going about their specific duties.
Yeah, I even wrote down that quote. He's like, engineering, where the noble semi-skilled laborers execute the vision of those who think and dream. Hello, Oompa Loompas of science.
Oompa Loompas of science.
So rude.
But funny. It made me laugh.
Yeah. Well, before that, I want to mention peeling off more of the onion that is Howard. That intro, I love this intro into Sheldon going into engineering. He's mad because his mom didn't pack him a ding dong.
I almost skipped by that. I just overlooked that note, but he's complaining to her, and she's doubting that it's actually happened. He's like, it's in the paper bag. I have the paper bag.
Like, Mom, it's a brown paper bag. Where else is it going to be?
And then
how are 2 ding dongs going to help me today?
I made a quote of that. How will 2 tomorrow help me now? So yeah, Howard made me laugh this episode. How will 2 tomorrow? Yeah. And we talked last time about him waking up and having the serious conversation about Sheldon being sick, and then telling his mom, "I want like chocolate milk and Eggo waffles."
Yeah, he definitely he knows, culinarily speaking, he knows what's up. Yeah. Chocolate milk, Eggos, ding dongs. It's all good, baby.
Tomorrow he's going to be wishing for 2 ding dongs. Once you go 2 ding dongs, you don't go back.
Ooh, mix it up though. 1 ding dong and 1 Twinkie. Ooh. Actually, no, I was a ho ho guy growing up.
I
really like the ho. I think they call it like Swiss cake or something. I think it's not always called ho hos. Swiss roll or Swiss roll cake.
Yeah, Swiss rolls is it's like the roll of chocolate cake with cream in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like the little Debbie cakes. They're like octagons or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's a weird shape and it's chocolatey. Yeah. So now I'm thinking about all these Hostess treats.
And now we're thinking of snacks. Getting a little snacky right now.
Sidetrack with Twinkies. Do you know what the original Twinkie flavor was? It had to change due to, I believe, World War II.
So it's not supposed to taste like infinity?
Oh, it always did, just more so. Yeah. Infinity times X.
Yeah. It tastes like its shelf life.
So now the cream is vanilla. It was originally banana.
Oh my god, I think I heard that somewhere. That's right.
And then
so it was the same cake on the inside, but the cream was banana.
Yeah, so it kind of looked like a banana and had banana cream pie type sensations to it. But because of the war, the flavoring was hard to get, and so they made it just vanilla cream.
Just crazy because bananas are everywhere.
Yeah.
But then again, I think it's a good choice. I'm not a big fan of like banana flavored things.
One time I saw a store have some banana cream Twinkies. It was like a limited edition throwback, and I didn't really know what it was, and so I just skipped over it, and I regret that decision. It's one of my biggest life regrets, not trying that banana Twinkie.
They should bring back every retro thing.
Right?
Like Ecto Cooler High C. They need to bring that back. I don't care how bad it is for you.
Target
Wait, back?
What? No, not.
Oh my god! I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Podcast over.
Screw this. I'm out. Target did Fruit Brute cereal. Like you got the Boo Berry, you got the Frankenberry, and you got the Count Chocula.
Oh, yeah, I've been seeing a lot of those. Yeah,
and then Fruit Brute has been discontinued for ages. Maybe they've brought it back once or twice here and there, but I've never been able to find it. But it's supposedly a Fruit Loop flavored werewolf cereal with marshmallows or something.
What?
So
I've never heard of that.
I've got a box and I'm waiting to try it. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's hey, October is your month, man. It's
Halloween
month. You're all about this.
Hey, December's really good too with all the Krampus stuff.
Oh, we're gonna have to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
When the time comes.
When the time. It'll be December before we know it.
Yeah.
Alright, so finally, after belittling...
side note. Oh my god, side note. I can't believe I forgot over this in the beginning of the notes. I calculated how many episodes we have left. By the time we end season 1, it'll be around Christmas.
Really?
Yeah, I calculated, like, because we record every 2 weeks based on the episodes. I think the last episode that we record of the year is like on December 25th. Granted, we'll have to coordinate our day.
We're gonna have to do something big for this. Lots of
on the end, yeah, because it's the end of the year and it's the end of season 1.
Make some grasshoppers for the festive season.
Yep, definitely.
Dress up like Santa and Krampus.
Yeah.
Not that our listeners can know, but maybe we'll do some Instagram posts or something.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, so Howard is getting frustrated, and Sheldon basically says he's making a shelf, and it's supposed to be something that stays perfectly level through the G-forces of rocketry, and it's basically a shelf that lifts up. And Howard finally gets fed up and says, "Go away." And then we lead into the next scene, Raj walking out of his office, pointing and saying, "Go away." And Sheldon walking out. So we don't even know what he did to Raj.
Yeah, and Sheldon is more and more perplexed. Like, is it me?
Is it me? Which, again, it plays back to him telling Dennis Kim he's like, "Go away." But he doesn't pick up on what's going on for any of these scenarios.
Yeah.
And then we're back at the apartment, and Howard and Raj come in. I like the line, "Is he here?" And he goes, "If he was here, I wouldn't be here," right? And, oh, that's what it was. Yeah, Raj does explain that Sheldon pointed out how Raj's job could be replaced with software, and that he was right.
Yep, and it's possible.
It's possible.
So then they have to figure out, how do we get rid of Dennis Kim? How do we re-normalize Sheldon? When I think the real question is, how can they get rid of Sheldon and keep Dennis Kim?
That's true.
What were they thinking? Sheldon, maybe it's time to go back to Texas.
You gotta go. Go away. Back to Texas. We got 1 point here for me being not like Sheldon. I am more like Raj in this scenario. I am a lot like Raj.
That you can be replaced by a program?
Probably, honestly. I mean, if Grammarly gets its way. That's sad. Oh, God. I was going to say the thought process of getting rid of the threat. And what did they say? What would happen if something happened to Dennis Kim? So he wasn't.
What if something happened to the boy?
If something happened to the boy.
the way he says it too.
Yeah. Oh. Murder? No, not murder. So, I would say I'm out. I think outside the box when dealing with problems for finding solutions.
You know what? That's a better way to put it.
And I'm going to put in parentheses, not murder.
Yes, for anybody listening out there, not murder.
Not murder. And they can't send him back to North Korea. I love this line, too.
He knows how to escape.
He knows how to escape.
So then Howard suggests biology.
And they're a little confused, and then he kind of like moves his hips, right? Like,
yep.
Biology.
Yep.
And pointing out that it could be a distraction. And they do go with that, but Sheldon enters and says they could take a look at cold fusion, but then everybody points and says, "Go away."
Yeah, and back up a little bit. Howard did say that biology worked on him because when he met a girl, his GPA went from 5.0 to 1.8.
Yes.
And not because he was having sex, because he was just thinking about her a lot.
That's a great line. Because he admits his failures when it's come to women. But, he's still got a lot of nerve to say what he says. But he definitely... it comes up later, too. Another shortcoming, another failure with a girl. And I appreciate his honesty with that.
Yep.
No, I didn't have sex with her. I just thought about her a lot. And my GPA dropped.
And side note, he had a really cool belt buckle in that scene.
Did he? What was it?
One.
Oh,
It's Batman. Yeah.
Nice. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. Who wears a baton.
What baton? That's my Batman baton.
All right, so IQ points.
IQ point.
What's cold fusion? Did you look into that?
I didn't. I have some ideas, but I kind of glanced over it. So you got this one.
Yeah. So Sheldon tells the guys that if they drop what they're doing, they can They can solve cold fusion, and it'll only take 10 to 12 years. It's like, wow. So I looked at this at techtarget.com. And cold fusion is a hypothetical process which hydrogen fusion supposedly occurs at room temperature. It's controversial because the notion appears to defy the laws of physics. Some scientists say that cold fusion is a real phenomenon and that it will someday form the basis for abundant, cheap source of energy. But others say it's not possible. So the science world is very divided.
It's my understanding that the sun makes its energy through fusion. It's like so dense and heavy that atoms are smashed together. And kind of like when you split an atom and get energy, when you smash them together, you get energy. But that takes
it creates a lot of energy and a lot of heat.
A lot of heat. And it takes,
so cold fusion is getting that same process, but at room temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, hydrogen fusion, as it is currently known, is the process responsible for the energy output of the sun and most other stars. It does not ordinarily take place unless there is extreme heat, millions of degrees Celsius, and extreme pressure. The only officially documented examples of human-generated fusion involve the explosions of hydrogen atoms. And I understood this or knew what they were talking about because of Spider-Man 2. It was the premise of that. Doc Ock was trying to create cold fusion. He was using tritium, which is hydrogen 3.
You're right. And that's why he needed the octopus legs to help control and handle the materials, right?
Yep.
I completely forgot about that. When I think of cold fusion, I think of this old Val Kilmer movie called The Saint.
And I remember that one.
He's kind of like a superhero, super action hero, and there's a woman who has invented cold fusion, has the schematics, and I believe somebody wants to steal it and commercialize it. And she wants to make it free.
I remember that one because it's good old Elizabeth Shue.
Oh, yeah.
I had the biggest crush on her.
It was back
90s and 2000s.
Val Kilmer was in his Batman stage, too, so he wasn't bad to look at either.
Yeah, he was pretty good eye candy, too.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with any of them. But yeah, I remember watching that and being like, what the hell's cold fusion? Why does everybody care so much about it?
Yeah.
And my dad tried to give me like a very, very basic understanding, like whatever. But Spider-Man 2 works too.
Yep.
Not as much eye candy.
Yeah, you're right.
Alright, so they say go away, and they're in the hall knocking on Penny's door, and I love her reaction because they said they need a hot 15-year-old Asian. That's racist. Any 15-year-old girl will do. And she just basically slams the door in their face.
Understandably.
She didn't know what it was for, though, and I feel like if she had known, she probably would have worked with them. But
well, I don't know about that.
ignorance is bliss. She just stayed out of it.
So then we go to the party, and then actually no, it's before that, I think.
Yeah, a little bit before. They're in Sheldon's office.
Yeah, he decides that he wants to focus on his people skills to win a Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, he wanted to solve the Middle East crisis by building an exact replica of Jerusalem in the middle of the Mexican desert. If you build it, they will come.
My
Wait for the dreams reference.
I'm giving a point to Sheldon. I am like Sheldon here. I actually had to look up, and I understand that Jerusalem and the Middle East is a big issue, but in my mind, I don't understand having a historical or a meaningful or valuable city or location. I've been nomadic so much of my life that making a second Jerusalem in Mexico, I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. And I had to look it up and see why Sheldon was being made fun of to start to understand that there are human emotions involved, religion, politics, and a whole lot else. But for me, if I wouldn't want to give up my house, but if I had to move, I would just move. There's nothing holding me down, and I get confused with emotional connections to land, I guess. Some people have homes, they're like, I have to get back to, Massachusetts, Maine, England, and I have never really understood that. So, yeah, it took me a second to understand that this, like, I would take it past inappropriate, like, to almost being offensive on Sheldon's part, right?
Yeah, and that kind of goes to the... that goes with the irony of him thinking that he has people skills and that he actually wants a Nobel Peace Prize. It's like, you just don't get it.
Yeah, so I'm putting that and no people skills. And maybe that's the bigger thing is I have no people skills. So I'd go into this being like, yeah, I have a solution. And people would just look at me like they look at Sheldon like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
So 1 point to Sheldon, and I did a little research. Did you do any research on Jerusalem and the importance? I mean, this could fill books. So there's really
I did. I split it up into 2 points. I did one on a really brief half an IQ point just because it was so brief. Because like you said, this is multiple books it could fill up. I looked into what's the Middle East crisis, and I also did what's the Wailing Wall.
Yeah, I did the Wailing Wall a little bit too.
Yeah. Very brief. The Middle East crisis. It's the Israeli-Palestine conflict. There was a constant war for 100+ years over territory, over Israel and Palestine. It was fought over the status of Jerusalem. So that specific city, everyone was trying to capture and maintain. Yeah, that's actually in like very brief spark notes, like that's pretty much what it is, but it's so much more.
And as the world wars took place, different people took different sides, and the fighting continued. And I think we overlook it as we look into the European War against Germany and the Pacific War with Japan. So we don't learn a lot about what was going on in the Middle East. We don't. I feel like in the U.S. we don't learn all that much about what happened in Korea or Vietnam either. We know about it just from the news, but I don't think I ever learned about how Korea was split up due to battles between communism and democracy, U.S. and Russia, right?
Yeah, we really don't learn that kind of stuff. I didn't really know that until like pretty recently.
It's interesting that I feel like we... Then again, maybe I did learn it. I just don't remember anything from history classes.
That's you focus on English.
Yeah.
And English. I just didn't pay attention.
I was learning about prepositions. Not ending sentences with them. But yeah, I think that's what I got too. That there's a lot going on, and it's a lot having to do with faith and beliefs and history and ancestry and different communities, different groups fighting over having this territory and it basically being taken away or given or pulled away from one group to another, and everybody still wants it because it's important to them. So I'm probably oversimplifying that Spark Notes, but that's I'm a Sheldon here. I don't understand it completely.
Yeah.
Same. Okay.
Same. That's pretty much all I had. It was like, wait, we don't have enough time.
But I do like the to what end? Build it and they will come. Definitely that Field of Dreams quote, right? I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I was just talking about it and I need to pick it up.
Yeah, I haven't watched that since I was a little kid.
Yeah. But it's a good one. And they talk about putting out a spread. If he puts out a spread, the Jewish people will come. He's like, well, we're putting out a spread this afternoon. And that's the next scene where they're having a kind of an employer event in the lounge, right?
Yep.
And
but before we go into that, I will say, like, as they're talking to Sheldon, Gablehauser does tell him that Dennis Kim decided to join Caltech, and they make a Matrix reference, just like the Oracle prophesies. Can you see the Matrix, Dennis? Or are you little Neo? And that's something I forgot to mention earlier when they made the Star Wars reference. This is one of the reasons why I really like this show. I know it's a little cliche now, just because a lot of nerd culture, all these like sci-fi movies, are very ingrained in pop culture now.
Mm-hmm.
But back in 2008, it wasn't. Like, it was actually really rare to hear shows talk about this kind of stuff, or even make a Star Wars reference or a Matrix reference. So that's why I really like this show, because you got those. But now you turn on any TV show that they'll make a reference just because it's so part of mainstream culture. So not that this was the original show that did it, but for me, in my world, it was.
It was still at least one of them, right? That something that connected. And like, you're right, that you turn on Disney and they have, seems like 50 different Star Wars shows going on at this point, right? 50s.
Yeah, and everyone's talking about them all, even like random Netflix shows will drop like a Star Wars quote or a Matrix quote or something like that. But back in 2008, you didn't get it very often.
Meanwhile, I'm here watching Interview with the Vampire. I'm believing I'm the only one watching Interview with the Vampire in the United States. Like, nobody's even heard. They're like, they're making a show out of that? I'm like, yeah, it's amazing. Love me some vampires.
Yeah, not popular enough.
Not popular enough. It used to be, I swear it did. Back in the day, they got Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise and what's her name from
Kirsten
Spider?
Dunst.
Yeah, Kirsten Dunst to be in it.
Kirsten Dunst.
Dunst.
Kristen?
I thought it was Kirsten.
We should know this.
It's Baton.
She's Mary Jane. We'll go with that.
Mary Jane. They got Mary Jane to play. I tell you, Tom Cruise, I believe he was born to play the role of Lestat. Like him, hate him, he does a great job as a self-involved, I'm going to say, sociopathic vampire. And it's like, wow.
Well, that's why he's still got it going on. I heard great things about the new Top Gun, too.
I keep hearing good things. My mom went to see it, and she's like, you should go see it in the theater. I'm like, that is not something my mom would say. What did you do with my mom?
Who are you?
Who are you? So they're at this event lounge, and Sheldon is talking about his Sonora Desert idea. And the guy he's talking to is obviously Jewish and just points and says, go away, right?
Yeah, because he tells him that he's telling him about his idea, and he wants to call it Nuevo Jerusalem.
And what we know is he's Jewish because he's got a yarmulke on, right? That was the giveaway.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this guy is going to be Jewish, and I kind of assumed it, and then I saw the yarmulke. I'm like, I get the joke. And then it turns out that it's bring your daughter to work day.
Yep.
And the only people who got the message were those with daughters between the ages of 14 and 16 listed on their insurance.
How they hacked into that. Well, they did it.
Yeah.
They found a way.
I'm not giving a point to that because I gave it earlier, but a point like Raj and thinking outside the box and making it work. And then Kim is kind of awkward standing in the corner, and they're like, we need a social catalyst. This is my favorite quote of the episode. Maybe it's just this episode was golden. Well, we need a social catalyst to get them talking. We can't get these girls drunk. And Howard goes, or can we? And they go, can't versus shouldn't. There's a difference. Technically, you can. You just shouldn't do it. Can't or shouldn't.
Like, yep, in a literal sense, we can.
Yeah, it can happen. I'm saying it. You're thinking it. And then this is where Sheldon brings up the Wailing Wall. What did you get for the Wailing Wall?
I feel very dumb that I didn't know any of this. So, like, I don't know if they taught me this in high school that I just didn't pay attention to, or if they just don't teach us things in America.
I don't think they teach us this shit.
Yeah, but I didn't know what the Wailing Wall was. So.
No idea what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I found this on gotquestions.org. The Wailing Wall, also known as the Western Wall, is a 187-foot-high section of the ancient wall built by Herod the Great as the retaining wall of the Temple Mount complex. The Wailing Wall is on the western side of the Temple Mount in the Old City of Jerusalem. Today, the exposed portion of the Wailing Wall faces a large plaza in the Jewish quarter and has been a venue for pilgrimage and prayer for the Jews since the 16th century. It should be noted that Jews usually don't use the term Wailing Wall, preferring the term Western Wall or HaKotel. Also, it means the wall. The Wailing Wall takes its name from the traditional Arabic term for the wall, El Mabka, which means the weeping place, due to the sorrow that the Jews expressed over the loss of their temple. The wall is supposedly a section of the Jewish temple, like I said, built hundreds of years before Christ. And it was destroyed.
Literally called the Second Temple, right?
I didn't see that part. In what I found, it was just called the Temple Mount.
I kept seeing Second Temple with Second and Temple capitalized, so I figured that was the name. But again, history classes failed me. I don't have a PhD.
Yeah. And did Google fail me too?
I'm not even sure I have a master's or a high school diploma in history at this point.
Well, we're building the IQ points.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Well, that temple was destroyed in about 70 AD by Romans. Once Jerusalem was once again under Israeli sovereignty, the Jewish took the official position that the Western Wall should be a place of general celebration instead of mourning. And then there's a whole other side of it of how the Muslims view the wall too. So there's the Jewish side that thinks it's a Jewish temple, but then the Muslims think that it was a temple for the Muslims. I found that Muslims believe that the wall has no relation to ancient Judaism. They refer to the wall as Al-Barak Wall, a reference to Al-Barak, the winged steed that Muhammad is said to have ridden. Muslims believe that Muhammad tied Al-Barak to the wall while he ascended to heaven to speak with God. Many Muslims also believe that the wall was part of an ancient Al-Aqsa mosque, and that the Jews did not begin praying at the wall until at least the 16th century, if not later. So there's two conflicting viewpoints of where that wall originated and who it belongs to.
Interesting.
Which I'm sure is part of the whole Middle Eastern conflict.
For the whole thing of the whole city, Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't even see about the conflicting reports, but that would make sense. And it also makes sense that when you get to things that are like 2,000 years old, records are going to be obscured a little bit, and there's going to be disagreements.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I can cut this part out because I'm just going to ask, but are we allowed to call Jewish people Jews?
I don't know.
But that's what I was just reading it as the article had written
Yeah.
it.
I
So
think
it's like, oh, I
I
kind of was
th-
like, am I allowed to say that?
I think so. As long as you're using it appropriately, it's kind of like gay and saying he's gay, or but you don't say I don't know. Oh, that's gay, right? You don't say that's
You don't say
Jewish.
it in a derogatory way, as
Yeah.
long as it's not a derogatory.
As far as I know, as long as it's not derogatory, it's okay and accepted. I think usually more formally, you try to make the statement saying Jewish as opposed to Jew. But I have heard nothing to say that saying Jew is offensive in and of itself.
Okay.
Hmm.
We'll talk later if I cut this out.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
I've had this thought process before, and so
Yeah.
and I was never able to find a certainty.
Yeah.
But you say if you say, "Oh, he's Catholic," that would be okay, but you wouldn't say the Catholics do some stupid shit or something, right?
Oh, I guess. Yeah.
Like somehow the logic should dictate how you use it, and it's not something like the N word necessarily.
Yeah.
Or I guess
Sorry,
even
I'm looking around. My dog is running amok.
no worries. Mine's
Yeah.
finally laying down after squeaking that toy. With Gypsy. Gypsy is offensive.
Is it?
Yeah. And this is highly debated because some people would say that the term has been taken back or it's been changed and adapted to something that it didn't used to be. But it was a slur against the Romani people from Romania, because they look like they were Egyptian. And we get words like, "Oh, he gypped me."
Yeah,
And
I've heard stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a term insulting them and not even considering their race, and just like yeah. So as far as I know, Jew is okay as long as you're using it respectively. It's not like gypsy where there are like people argue the word completely is wrong.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Okay, and we're cutting back in.
And we're back to the actual podcast.
So they're hanging out and they're trying to pick a girl. Like, let's get this girl talking. Let's get that girl talking. And the first one, Howard has a story about. And I love this because we think it's just Howard being Howard, kind of creepy. And he says his story is about a girl tricking him into thinking she likes him, and then ending up with no pants and the whole football team laughing at him. And then he starts crying.
That's very traumatizing.
Very. And we're kind of like, oh, that's Howard, and he's kind of creepy as is. But they point out another girl, and then Leonard's like, we can't do that because she might make him do her homework, and while she gets drunk on White Russians and wishes more guys were like him, but then gets into Cornell only because he wrote the essay. And when he goes to visit her, she acts like she doesn't know him, and then he starts crying.
So rude.
And so as far as Howard being Howard, I'm like, you know what? We all have these bad stories, and I respect both Howard and Leonard in this. And I was thinking,
we've all been there.
I'm like, it's kind of weird that Raj doesn't have a story, but then it clicked for me. Raj can't talk to girls.
Yeah, he's still living his story.
Yeah, he's still living the story. So yeah, he doesn't have that, but on the bright side, at least Howard and Leonard can talk to girls. They're not as damaged as Penny would say.
Yeah.
And
then I really like Howard's arrogance on the next one, where they're like, "Oh yeah, maybe this next one," But then Howard says, well, she'll never go for the kid when she gets a peek at this. And he was like serious too.
Very serious. I know that he said one would have low self-esteem because she was overweight too, right? I'm like, God damn,
Yeah.
Howard. you're really you're losing some points here. But
yeah, it's that shit from that we talked about before, how he's really into like the pickup artist stuff.
Yes, exactly.
So then I will say that Raj says it'll be easier in India because it just takes 5 minutes with her dad and 20 goats and a laptop.
I like this conversation. And Leonard's arguing with him.
He straight up calls out Leonard for his strategy with Penny.
Moving into the room across the hall.
And pathetically moon over her for months on end. And I was like, dude, you kind of took it a little far.
Low blow. I mean, it's real, really, but low blow.
Yeah. I would say that Raj is a bit of an ass in that scene.
Yeah.
All Leonard said was, I don't think your plan is gonna work. And he just took that shit so personal. It's like, oh geez.
He pulled out the big guns. He just went straight there. And finally, Dennis is announced and is like, Dennis, you want to come over and introduce your work and talk about what you're doing? And he comes out with his arm around a girl and he says, nah, I'm going to the mall.
Good for him.
So their plan worked out. They didn't have to do anything except get him in a room full of girls, and it still figured itself out.
Yep. And the guys are very perplexed on how he did it. And the first time I saw this, I even thought, fuck, how'd he do it?
What is it called? The rules of odds or whatever, that if things happen enough times, if you put enough monkeys in a room and let them type long enough, they will type Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Right?
So you thinking that Dennis went around to every girl?
I think that he just happened to be at the right girl at the right time, and she started talking to him, and that was enough.
Yeah.
Right place, right time, right girl, right Dennis.
Yep. He just pulled out the chocolate milk and magic happened.
He showed her his buttons.
And he spoke Latin
to her. Yeah, so they go to the mall, and everybody's like, did anyone see how he did it? And Sheldon's response is like, well, my work will go on since social relationships will continue to baffle and repulse me.
So then the guys are thinking that smart is the new sexy. Maybe that's how Dennis Kim got her. But maybe they're just so smart, it's off-putting.
Too smart, it's off-putting. Yeah,
let's go with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah, let's just assume that. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. And then we get the ending scene, and they are at the park, and they have been setting off rockets and have gotten a ticket. A citation, right? And Leonard says it's because Howard mentioned he has a rocket in his pocket and will need to be frisked.
How did he not get arrested?
That's right. That is wow. But I did a partial IQ on laws with rockets because I knew there were laws, but I've never ever gotten permission to set off a model rocket. In fact, whenever I've wanted a firework, I've just gone out. I'm like, I need a firework. I need to blow something up. And I've gone out and bought a model rocket and set it off. And technically, you're supposed to, for class 1 rockets, which are most model rockets, you're supposed to call your local fire department. And I'm guessing that's because it does have high temperatures and this ability to light a fire. And so your fire department will say, we're in a burn ban, please don't do it. But at the same time, if they don't see it, they'll never know. So, but they're in a public park, so somebody saw it. And technically, if you are going with class 2 or class 3, and I had a little trouble identifying the difference between these, but I think class 3 is like high tech, big science rockets. You need like authorities, you need laws, you need to know where the aerospace is and the airport is. It's things get pretty official at that point. But for what they were doing, they probably needed the fire department, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, they just didn't get permission or a permit to do it.
But if you want more information, you go to NAR.org, National Association of Rocketry, and they talk all about it and have clarifications. I used to love rocketry, and blowing stuff up is great.
Yeah, I've never been into rocketry. I've just been into classic 4th of July blowing shit up.
That's fair. See, you need a reason to blow stuff up on the other days of the year. You get like rockets where you put a little action figure in, and it shoots them out, and they parachute down while your rocket like burns up.
Oh my god, I remember those. Those are awesome.
I love that shit. This is nice. And while they're walking away, they see Dennis Kim. It looks like he's drinking alcohol and making out, right?
Yep, he's got the paper bag and everything.
And so he's really gone downhill. And they're like, do you feel bad? He's really ruined his life. And Sheldon says, screw him, he was weak.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with Sheldon. You know what? I'm going to give a point to Sheldon for that one. Because I do believe
survival of the fittest.
Yes. Part of success is being, what's it called?
Balanced.
Derived, not initiative, but you keep trying. You never give up.
Well, maybe he was in his off period. Maybe he likes drink a 40 and make out with his girl between 10:30 and 11, and then he goes back to class.
You know, if that's his priority, I say kudos to him. But at the same time, Sheldon's going to get the awards now because he does not have that.
Yep, because what do you say? Human interactions baffle and repulse him.
Baffle and repulse. I like that. Please.
For now. Foreshadow much?
Uh-oh. He's going to get some human interaction, isn't he?
I'll sprinkle that little nugget on top of you.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to say devotion. It takes devotion to succeed.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't feel bad. Like, at the time when I first watched this, I didn't feel bad for Dennis Kim either.
He was drinking and getting lucky. It's hard to feel bad for him.
It's like, you know what? He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. He made it work.
He's only 15. He'll get his shit together at some point.
Amen. So that's it. That's the Jerusalem duality.
That's it. We did it.
Woo-hoo.
What'd you think of it overall?
I like this one. It made me laugh. It was a strong episode. Some characterization. Raj got some funny parts. And the jokes they were very strong.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I remember really liking this episode, but now that we are actually taking the time to like analyze it and like go like scene by scene, it went from a good episode to an okay episode in my book.
Really? What knocked it down for you?
Maybe because I don't know if it's just because I've seen it so many times, but it was kind of like, I'm a little bored. Like, and like it was just like the whole. God, I think, but like I really like Raj, but that scene kind of just killed it for me with him being a bit of an asshole. How he just kind of like really like, when someone offends me, I'm gonna knock you down with 7 pegs.
I thought it was more, it was his not being scared, but running out of solutions, being needing a solution and running out of hope, and so he was just like, we gotta do something, and you're gonna argue with me? Just don't.
He was acting out of desperation.
That's the word I was
okay.
I didn't see it as him, I could be wrong on that, but I saw it more as desperation, like, do you have a better idea, because your ideas aren't working?
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Okay. It's better for me now.
A little bit better.
I like Raj, and I'm trying to put him on a good light. But sometimes he can come across as like a huge asshole. But then again, all the characters can be a little annoying.
I was gonna say they all have their moments.
But I do appreciate the accuracy of the message of how the rise and fall of great minds can happen when sex is on the table.
Mm-hmm. You know,
can
that
happen to anyone.
Had me thinking too that most of the greatest artists had returned love, right? That you
Unrequited love.
Yeah. Van Gogh, even Dante from Dante's Inferno, Kafka, who else? A lot of musicians. I've heard Fur Elise, the song that goes do 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 do, was written for a woman, and when she clarified that she wasn't interested, he amped up the difficulty so that she couldn't play it anymore. That's why it goes from easy to very hard.
Spiteful much?
So yeah, there's something to be said about that. You know, you pick and choose your battles, and maybe the greatest can't have everything. They can't have romance and super greatness, but maybe.
Well, wasn't Einstein married? Stephen Hawking was married.
Was he? You're right. I never watched that movie, but there was a movie about him, right?
Yeah.
I need to watch that. But
all right, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to disagree. But I can't.
You just got lawyered.
You just rajed me.
Well, time to tally everything up. So let's count up your Shally points. I saw Sheldon and
I'm
Tally
Shelly now.
right next to each other. Your Shally points. And I'll count up the IQ points.
You got 13 for me being not like Sheldon and 15 for me being like Sheldon. We just went up a little bit on Sheldon's end.
Sorry, I missed all that. I was counting.
Sheldon got 2 points. Being not like Sheldon got 1 point, so I'm at 13 to 15. I am like Sheldon by 15.
And leaning towards Sheldon. And IQ points. We had 12 IQ points.
Nice.
Wow, that's a lot. And we had 1 partial because we had no idea what the Lorenz invariance is.
We gave up on it.
I'm just going to give that a partial 1, but 12 full IQ points.
I feel like those other ones, and they were all very dense, very difficult, so...
Yeah, this was a hard one because it was all very science-based.
Yeah.
All the conversations was about, like, Sheldon battling Dennis Kim, so it all came down to science, and that's why it got hard.
How much they actually knew, and throwing comments back and forth that are very highly elevated and trying to understand, wait, what did he just say? What is that?
Yeah. I will say that in the spirit of trying to count up all our IQ points and figuring out what our favorite one is, I will say that none of these are going to make it on the list. I think I already know which one mine is. I already have one like locked and loaded in my head of what I think my number one is, but I'm gonna have to review everything.
I'm gonna have to think about it. I'm not sure.
Well, we got some time to think about it, and in my off time, I need to take some time to like actually start typing everything up.
Yeah.
So I have it all like loaded and everything like that. I'll start posting them on the Instagram too, so everyone can like look back to old episodes and see what we talked about.
What IQs we've given them.
Yeah. All the extra points.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to cop out and say that what is IQ is my favorite IQ point. So,
that'd be crummy.
It's definitely not.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, all right. Anything else?
That's all I have for this episode. I'm looking forward to finishing the rest of Oktoberfest, the last day of Oktoberfest, and talking to you next time.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Remember to please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We're also on Spotify and Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, where, again, we're at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. And email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And I'm going to put both of those in the show notes. So see you next time when we talk about episode 13, The Bat Jar Conjecture.
Thanks for listening.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD necessary. Our intro and outro music is by Alice Grohl, and our logo is by John Kim. Thanks for listening. Butt. You really like to say the butt part.